Well, that's great. I think the chair and the vice chair have really done a great job of summing up, and I'd like to endorse pretty much each point that they made, and it really relieves me of the responsibility of having to even address it, but I'm going to anyway. I think that they've done a really good job of stating sort of the on-the-record and calm case about what we've witnessed here. I'm an advocate for open government and transparent decision-making. I think these kinds of conversations should happen in front of the microphones. I think that should happen across the government. So I'm going to take the lead now. What I detect and everything that I've seen on this case, from deciding whether or not we would hear it, to actually going through the process of hearing it, to scheduling this additional meeting, I've seen what I guess I would refer to, without throwing any rocks at anyone, as a general resistance to the public's input on the subjects of the health of the environment, the traffic and the safety concerns, and the impact on the schools. Even the developer's attorney during our first hearing actually admitted during a back and forth while we asked questions that we all know that the road is bad and it's substandard. The county has already said that, and it should be addressed. I mean, I was a little bit shocked to hear that. I mean, it's almost as if that someone else's besides ours as a community's problem. How could we greenlight a project of this magnitude when that is in the public record, and even the developer admits that it's a huge problem? I mean, it's anecdotal. We're supposed to consider only evidence, but I live in this county. I have instructed my family not to use the road if it's dark or raining, because it's widely known, as it was presented in evidence in our first hearing, that the majority of the accidents that occur on that road are single car accidents or head-on collisions, right? Single car meaning it slid off and hit a tree. Head-on collisions meaning one or the other lost control of their car in one of the turns. I mean, this isn't very difficult to dig for. And the fact that Ms. Moreland on the Planning Commission and others in the closing moments of those hearings were asking very poignant questions and receiving what I judge to be inadequate responses, I think tells its own story. I don't understand the resistance to public input. We've heard the argument made repeatedly that it was an administrative hearing. And as such, I was very struck when one member of the public actually took time outside the hearing at Planning Commission during other business to actually raise the specter of public input into that matter, and was forcefully told by a member of our staff that their input was not needed, not desired, and would not be recommended to the chairman. I don't understand the full context of those remarks, but when I heard them myself, it did sound like fingers on a chalkboard, because we'd have to be more open than that. And I would like to point out that in conducting this hearing, Mr. Chairman, through the cooperation of both the applicant and the county and all the parties involved, we heard all of this input that the public has been trying since months ago to get on the record and to have considered before this decision was made, in approximately 90 minutes of Mr. Wolfgang's presentation the other night and about 60 minutes this evening. So all of this bluster, all of this not going to consider the public, could have been resolved in less than 3 hours by my calculation. That's ludicrous. I agree with the vice chair. Remanding it would be ludicrous as well, because there will be a predisposition that the original decision carries some weight, and that is completely unacceptable. And so, Mr. Chair, with your permission, when the time is right, I'd like to make a motion. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think, is there anything else that any members would like to raise? I guess this would be the time for a motion.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, in light of the evidence presented by all of the people who took great time to come before us and try to arrive at the truth, I move that we set aside the decision in this case with prejudice.
Get turned on. I'll second that motion.
So I know that there has been some discussion about what the proper next step would be, whether that would be to remand or whether that would be to overturn. And I'm sure that we could talk about that topic among schooled minds for some time. But this is a quasi-judicial board, and I'm not an attorney, and neither are my colleagues. However, I think it bears, it would be prudent at this point to just read what our county zoning law says on the topic of appeals. That this board may reverse or affirm in whole or in part, or may modify the order, requirement, decision, or determination appealed from, and may make any order, requirement, decision, or determination that, in our opinion, ought to be made in the case before it. To this end, the board shall have all the powers of the administrative official, in this case the Planning Commission, from whom the appeal was taken. And so I think that your motion is proper, and I would support it.
Well, I'd just like to comment further, if I could, that I make that motion with all due gravity of what it implies. I mean, I do understand that should the developer wish to continue, this will require a beginning again of the process. And I definitely am very sensitive to issues of delay, and we certainly can't have a situation where, the sort of, I guess the concern from our business community, which I'm proud a member of, is like we can't have a not in my backyard phenomenon. Every objection can't grind the wheels to a halt. I think we all understand that. But just as the Vice Chair pointed out, I think a simple remand is inadequate to what we've seen here. If this project is going to move forward, the way it should be drawn up is that the concerns that we've been, that attention has been brought to should be an integral part of the planning of the project so that those concerns can be addressed. And in my judgment, the only way that can be done is from a completely fresh consideration of the project. So my motion stands.
Okay.
And I'd like to clarify something on the technical side. You said to set aside. I think we probably should say reverse and deny.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair. I'll modify the motion. I move that we reverse the decision of the Planning Commission reluctantly and set it aside. Is that what you want?
Denying the original permit.
Denying the original approval, that is correct.
Okay, and I second that. Thank you.
All right. I think we've had enough discussion, and so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the decision is overturned. And I don't believe we have anything else on the agenda for us this evening, so we are adjourned. Thank you.